You're listening to the Millionacres Podcast. Our mission at Millionacres is to educate and empower investors to make great decisions and achieve real estate investing success. We provide regular content and perspective for everyone, from those just starting out to seasoned pros with decades of experience. At Millionacres, we work every day to help you demystify real estate investing and build real wealth.
Hello, I'm Deidre Woolard, an editor at Millionacres, and thank you so much for tuning into the Millionacres Podcast. We're talking about something a little bit different today, a little bit interesting, furniture. All right, why furniture? Well, we all know staging a house can make a difference in how fast a house sells. Furniture can also change how renters, vacationers, or long-term tenants feel about a place. And hey, we all need furniture. So with me today is Sam Selby, who's the Director of Business Development at Fernish. And that's Fernish with an E. And Fernish is a premium furniture service that offers monthly payment options. But this is not your parents' rent to own. This is something entirely different. It's a part of the larger sharing economy. And I think it's a really interesting trend that's happening right now. So welcome, Sam.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, so let's talk about last year. Big year for furniture, right? Everybody was sort of looking at their house and realizing like, oh, there has to be a home office in here. I know that some of the publicly traded companies like Wayfair had a big year. What was it like for you at Fernish?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we saw similar trends as well. Home office furniture was really the first thing. It just spiked immediately. I think we had we saw kind of a 300% increase in orders that contained work from home furniture from Q1 to Q2 of last year. And then there was kind of this second tailwind of regular home furniture because, like you mentioned, people were spending all day and all night at home. And they kind of looked around and said, well, I wasn't planning on spending this much time at home. I want to kind of sort of reinvest in the home now. And we were also kind of in the crosshairs of home, as well as, everyone knows that home delivery became a norm or even a requirement in certain parts of the country. And people just didn't want to go wander through furniture stores. And so we were sort of in that really beneficial place of, being a home goods platform and also providing sort of in-home delivery and setup. And then sort of the third wave was, the global supply chain had all sorts of issues. And with our turnaround times being 7 days and being a circular business, we were less impacted by that.
Interesting. I wanted to ask you about surfaces because last year, at the beginning of the pandemic, everybody was wiping everything. Then we got kind of away from that. But now as we start to think about going into hotels, going into vacation rentals, going perhaps even back into the office, what is that hygiene concern now, and what are the kind of what's happening to kind of make people feel more comfortable with that?
Yeah, so, I'd have to kind of put on my partner hat here. I mean, we obviously have our own, in-house operations and sort of a 17-step cleaning and refurbishment process for all of our furniture when it comes back to our warehouse to make it like new when it goes out again. But, it has certainly been a discussion point for a lot of our partners, particularly in the vacation rental area. And I think what, the key there that we've really been working with our partners on has been quality, right? And ensuring that, if there is a ongoing service element that can be layered onto a vacation rental operator's portfolio, that, it includes regular cleaning, but it also includes regular sort of fixes and, wipe downs or repairs to existing furniture, kind of an ongoing maintenance basis to really make the customer experience at the end of the day great, because that's really what matters. And, for our partners in the vacation rental space, that's something that we've been speaking with them a lot since last summer about is how can we, moving forward, make sure that customer confidence and that they're going to get a great, clean place that has beautiful furniture in it that they know is being cleaned and repaired to their expectations, that they're going to be able to deliver on that.
Interesting. So do you think that for the vacation rentals, is there more of a focus on the furniture really needing to look new, look fresh, because there is that extra layer of concern?
There's also, it goes into sort of how the home is merchandised as well. I know there were some really interesting partnerships between, I don't want to misquote here, I think it was Airbnb and one of the companies in sort of the home services space to kind of put a seal of approval, say, this home has been certified clean by this brand. And we think that there are certainly opportunities to do something similar with sort of the quality of furniture in the home. I think that when you're talking about consumer expectations from a vacation rental standpoint, a lot of the hosts, in order to meet those, have kind of taken the opportunity to kind of refresh their places. Hotels have done this, for instance. So of retail spaces, they're all sort of investing in renovating or refurbishing the homes to make sure that the next travel cycle that's coming up here. I guess we're just sort of starting to kick it off with Memorial Day. That they're kind of they have their best foot forward, basically. And obviously, furniture and home goods is a big part of how those listings are merchandised on vacation rental sites.
Absolutely. Yeah. Are you seeing more requests from vacation rental operators now that we do seem to be preparing for quite a big summer?
We are, yeah. Actually, we get a lot of inbounds, and people are really anticipating kind of all this pent up demand being released in terms of travel, and I think rightfully so. I mean, I don't know what Airbnb's listings look or website traffic looks like, but I'm sure it's growing, especially over last year. And a lot of folks are kind of, I think they have sort of one foot in, right? They're saying, okay, well, I know, if I'm a vacation rental operator, I know that I need to kind of make up for a down year last year. But I don't want to necessarily make a huge investment in spending $40,000 to get new furniture and decor in my home. So what are my options? And then they find out about us, and they find that they can pay for it monthly on a rent to own basis. Or they can just rent it if it's a very seasonal, if it's a seasonal market, they can just rent it for 3 or 4 or 5 months. And that's a big benefit, because then they can start to see the increased ADRs and rent rates that nicer furniture carries with it, but they don't have to make the full upfront investment.
Interesting. So, what's happening on the multifamily side? I know Fernish has relationships with multifamily apartments and some REITs. What does that look like?
Yeah. So we partner with operators, owners, and sort of fee only managers, kind of everyone who sort of touches a, large managed multifamily complex. And, really the goal there is, I think we sort of have this aligned vision on how can the resident experience be the best possible, and how can furniture be used or furniture service be used really as a differentiator for the communities. Residents have traditionally kind of had two options with regard to their furniture. They're either paying to move their existing furniture with them, and that can amount to thousands of dollars if it's a cross-country move. And we know, like clockwork, 70% of the time residents get new furniture within 3 months, right? So that sort of tells us that they're paying thousands of dollars just to have temporary furniture and not have the mattress on the ground until they can get new furniture that fits their new floor plan. Or they're getting new furniture when they move in, right? They're ditching their old stuff and they're getting all new furniture. And traditionally, that's been, I think, a frustrating experience, to say the least. I mean, you're talking about spending your first 2 weeks as a resident in your new city, shopping for and then assembling cheap furniture, right? Or you're waiting, 4 to 6 months for your nice couch to arrive, and neither of those are ideal resident experiences. And so the question becomes, if you're looking at new communities, would you rather be able to promise residents that, when they move into the community, they'll have furniture from Crate and Barrel set up in their new home and they don't have to lift a finger? Or would you rather have the old experience, right? And so I think when we talk about partnering with multifamily managers and REITs, it's really about reducing the barrier to entry to moving into a new community, right? That's what it's all about, and how that resident experience with regard to move-in and furniture and getting your home set up and settled, how that's kind of built into that leasing and move-in experience, to really create sort of a new magical experience for residents that doesn't involve assembling their new furniture.
Yeah, nobody likes that. I don't know anyone who's like, "Yay, I get to assemble the furniture and use these weird wrenches that never seem to work."
Yeah, that's things that are never said.
Exactly. So with these experiences, is it more turnkey, like here's a whole apartment, or is it more just room by room?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's really both. I think it really depends on the type of customer. I think everyone is sort of turnkey to some extent, right? Like you said, no one likes assembling furniture. I like it set up for me when I move in. I think traditionally that it's been difficult for consumers to trust that they're going to get the type of furniture that they want, because fully furnished and turnkey furniture is, it's been synonymous with corporate suites in the past, right, for like the last 40 or 50 years. And this is a new turnkey service. It's resident high grade residential furniture. We feature furniture from Crate and Barrel and CB2, but it's set up and delivered in your home. And I feel it sort of feels like we're kind of emerging almost from like a stone age with regard to furniture. People have just sort of accepted that schlepping it around or assembling it or paying to store it while they move to Boston for 4 months. I just have a friend that's doing that right now, and they've just accepted that's part of owning furniture. And I think we're starting to consumers are starting to catch on that there's a better way and there's a service that can be evolved with it. So to directly answer your question, we see it's turnkey for a lot of folks, especially those who are who are coming internationally. But for a lot of folks who are doing, intra-city moves, they've already got a few things and they just need to kind of fill in around it.
Interesting. I think that's one of the things I find fascinating about Fernish is that it is part of that sharing economy. I'm wondering, do you have designers in-house? Because I know one of the things that has happened in the last few years is those sort of like designer services where the designer doesn't even come to your house. You have those sort of like online designer services. Is that something that you do or something that you're looking toward?
Yeah. So that's actually something that we offer to customers just through our partners. So it's kind of one benefit of being a Fernish partner, from a vacation rental standpoint, or from I should say from a host standpoint, or from a multifamily partner standpoint. The residents get access to our in-house design services, and so that the whole goal there is to kind of take away all of the anxiety. I know I feel this around, like, does this furniture even go together? Like, how do I know? I'm such a novice in this space. And it can be a big barrier for someone even transacting in the first place, right? We hear all the time from partners that their residents really want some guidance around how to make their home feel like home because they plan on being here for a few years. We also hear from partners that, especially in kind of the LA and Seattle tech scenes where, the Amazon employees just signed a 12-month lease and, 6 months in still has the mattress on the ground because they are working so much. They don't have time to go pick out all their furniture. So it can be a big time saver for people too. And just, we send them a selection that works, that's sort of custom to their floor plan, and they can choose from a few different options and then check out.
I love that. One of the things I'm really fascinated about is furniture waste. For the first time in my life, I'm living in a large apartment building, and oh my goodness, I am shocked by how many of the people in this building just throw out their furniture, relatively decent furniture, and the amount of furniture in this one relatively small building that gets destroyed every month is pretty substantial. I mean, this isn't good for anybody. So tell me a little bit about how Fernish takes furniture back and what that cycle looks like.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all have our stories or experiences of either this firsthand or seeing it, right? Furniture, furniture is a hassle to deal with if you no longer want it, right? And that's one of the reasons it's so great to have a service element to it. I just met with a partner this morning who oversees a portfolio in Seattle, and they spend $2,000 per month per property on furniture disposal services just to get rid of old furniture that's left in their units. That's one additional unit of revenue for them, and it hits their NOI because it's a recurring cost. And everyone has the stories about how furniture ends up in the dumpsters every month, and so really our solution is that it's part of our service, right? And when life changes and residents need to take the job offer in Dallas, we just come pick up the furniture, and we have that sort of 17-step refurbishing and cleaning process to make it like new. So you never know if you truly can't tell if it's the first time it's been used and it just came from the manufacturer, or it's the fourth time it's been used. our refurb techs are that good. And then we deliver the new furniture, sort of give it a new home. And the really great part about this is, when we operate in many, many more markets, if you're moving from, Seattle to Dallas today, we can just deliver your new furniture from our Dallas warehouse into your new Dallas apartment. Say it's a 2-bedroom instead of a 1-bedroom. You can sort of get you can almost stream your furniture that way. And there's no disposing of your old furniture. So your waste footprint is zero, right? And we find that, especially with younger consumers, this is a big deal to them. And it just like they don't own their DVD collections anymore, it really doesn't make sense to really own your furniture. You kind of want to stream them both.
I love that idea of streaming the furniture. I haven't ever heard it put that way, but that really is a great idea. And to me, this also connects to the idea of something that's happening in retail right now, where you have this evolution from fast fashion, right? And people are starting to consider the environmental cost of fast fashion, more of a movement towards slow fashion, or finding ways to, vintage or recycling and things like that. Do you feel like something like that is happening in the furniture industry too, that there is that extra level of awareness now, both on the consumer side and perhaps on the production side as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Levi's has done such an amazing job of turning old vintage products into the new cool thing. I think their old jeans sell for more than their new jeans, right? And they were really pioneers. I think that was in the 90s. But obviously, I think this trend, it really did start in fashion, and I think it is catching on in furniture, especially. The old habits of sort of consuming, using, then discarding even the same product multiple times throughout your lifetime. People are doing that with furniture. We know that, right? People buy furniture with the intention of having it for a temporary amount of time, and they don't want to spend a lot of money on it because they know they're going to throw it in the future. And what we're seeing is that, with retail and with fashion, people are shifting toward desiring high quality goods, right? They feel better, they look better, and most importantly, they last longer. And the apparel and furniture are actually similar in that they're very like tactile experiences. There's a certain quality of touch and feel to them, and you're also spending a lot of time with the product, right? You're in your clothes all day, you're in your office chair all day, you're on your couch all evening, and so there are noticeable differences when it comes to quality. And I think that, companies like Rent the Runway and fashion and furniture and Fernish and furniture, what we're able to deliver with a circular business model is access to those goods that people might not have otherwise, right? They might decide to go cheap because they know it's going to be temporary, or maybe it's permanent, but they don't know how long they're going to need it, and it ends up being permanent. And really the goal is providing access to great quality goods so that people don't have to, shell out a bunch of money for it up front, but they can still sort of enjoy those products.
Once you experience better furniture, it's sort of like experiencing better fashion. You're like, oh, this fits better. This lasts better. This looks better. The surfaces are nicer. So I feel like it's very hard to go backward once you've had that experience.
Yeah, there's a big surprise and delight factor to it, and I know, companies like Rent the Runway, again, they're also able to, there's whole recommendation engines around it, and they can really enhance their customer experience outside of the physical product itself. And that's what we try to do also with things like Furnished Design Services. Is maybe you didn't know how great your living room could look, right? And it's an opportunity for us to really exceed customer expectations there.
Awesome. I love that. Let's take a quick break here.
Like what you're hearing? Get more real estate investing news and advice from Millionacres on Instagram @Millionacres and on Twitter @Millionacres_co.
Christina Real Estate Investors provides an unparalleled opportunity for investors nationwide to participate in curated real estate portfolios in the West Side region of Los Angeles. For more than 40 years, Christina has generated exceptional returns for its investors through a unique strategy and structure focused on tax-advantaged wealth preservation and long-term capital appreciation. By investing with Christina, you'll own a direct stake in exceptional properties located in ultra-prime submarkets of Los Angeles. Managed by a highly skilled team with a proven track record, Christina underscores its philosophy by co-investing in every offering. Coming soon, Lawrence Taylor, founder and president of Christina, will speak about the firm's current portfolio offering and ways to invest. For more information, please visit ChristinaLA.com.
I'm back with Sam Selby of Fernish, and we're talking about furniture trends, and now let's talk a little bit about Fernish's use of real estate itself, because I think this is an interesting topic for those of us who are also interested in industrial real estate and warehouses. So I know you're in a few markets. You've got Los Angeles, Orange County, Seattle, Dallas, and San Diego. I know you're looking to expand more. So do you need to have warehouse space in every market you expand into?
Yeah, we don't need to, but we do. That's a decision we made early on, actually, in the company, is to have our own in-house, not just warehouses, but our own in-house operations, trucks, delivery team, refurbishment in each market. And really that's to ensure we're providing the best customer experience, right? I didn't fully appreciate this until I got to Fernish, because I was always in sort of the digital app world. But it is unbelievably complex and complicated to make sure that something gets to someone at the right time in the right place. I didn't have an appreciation for it. And so being able to manage that all in-house, build our own proprietary asset management software, have our own teams with, their own devices, and just have that sort of real-time communication between what's happening out in the field, what's happening in the warehouse, and then headquarters. Is really, really powerful, especially as we scale to more markets. And we also have a lot of former Amazonians at our company, my boss included. And so we, if you know anything about Amazon's customer-centric mantra, that's certainly migrated its way over to Fernish. And so we've made sure that we really take that to heart and have our own operations locally in each market.
Interesting. So when you're planning a market, how do you know how much square footage you're going to need?
We hire people smarter than me. That's the first step. The second one is we do look at a lot of different data. So, kind of on the demand side, there's a lot of, we look at lookalike audiences and ad platforms. What percentage of the homes are multifamily dwelling units versus single family dwelling units? Where can we lead in existing partnerships to scale the market really quickly? What are sort of the broad consumer demographics and psychographics? And then on the operations side, what types of furniture are popular in those markets? What size of furniture, right? Sectionals are not fantastic in Manhattan, right? You can imagine. And so that allows us to also kind of look through, okay, what does our routing in the market look like relative to our warehouse location? And then what kind of route density can we achieve? And what are mobility patterns? All these, at the end of the day, help us sort of make assumptions on two key variables. One is what's our average order volume and order size, so that we know how much inventory to keep on hand. And therefore, that kind of flows into what square footage do we need. And so our warehouses, I think, are between 30 and 50,000 square feet each, depending on the market and sort of the population that they serve.
So when you're looking for new markets, are you looking for a market with a population growth, a high percentage of renters, that sort of thing?
Exactly. Yeah. Most folks, I don't know what the exact percentage is now, but the vast majority of folks who are renting or rent to owning their furniture, just utilizing Fernish, are also renting their homes. It makes sense. And then mobility patterns are another thing we look at. And so, surprisingly, when we were doing our analysis, there are certain markets that you would think, like San Francisco, for instance, you'd say, oh, San Francisco looks like a great market. It's got a lot of young people. They work in tech. It's very sort of progressive and kind of they're early adopters to new services. But then when you look at the mobility patterns, it actually has some of the lowest mobility rates of any major market in the country. And that's because of rent control, right? People stay in their homes for 7 or 8 years there. So it's actually not a fantastic market sort of from a demand standpoint. It's also difficult to get around the whole Bay Area with that big body of water in the middle of it.
Good point. So do the current trends, are they influencing anything for you right now? I mean, you're in Dallas already, but we're seeing this massive migration kind of happening to the Sun Belt areas and certainly to Austin, places like Charlotte. Is that something else that you're looking at as well?
Yeah, and it certainly is. I mean, Dallas has been such a phenomenal market launch for us. It has been heads and shoulders above where we thought it was going to be. And that kind of, whether or not that means that there is a sort of a blueprint for Dallas and other markets is kind of TBD, and we're actually looking at that right now for our second half of the year expansions. But it also population growth is something that we were factoring in as a major variable in our future market launches. And you could imagine that Austin is a place that's high on our list as well. Same with Atlanta and Florida too. Those happen to be areas where we also conveniently share a lot of multifamily partnerships. The Sun Belt is an area where the same operators or the same owners have broad swaths of their portfolio in the different markets. So it makes it very easy for us to kind of gain demand density early on there.
That makes sense. So you mentioned Crate and Barrel earlier. I know you have deals with a few different companies. What are you looking for in partners on that side? And do you have any plans to move into manufacturing yourselves?
Yeah, we're always discussing it. I think in the future state of Fernish is going to be one where we still rely very heavily on our wholesale partnerships with folks like Crate and Barrel and CB2. They've been so valuable to us, and I think I'm actually very interested in ways that we can grow that partnership just outside of sort of the sourcing and wholesaler partnership that we have. There's certainly things that they could learn from us about rental and that we could learn from them about retail, for instance, or e-commerce. So I think that sort of those partnerships can really help both parties grow. But then, controlling our supply chain from start to finish is also very important. I mean, if the last year has taught us nothing else, it's that from a furniture perspective, it's that the supply chain is incredibly fragile. And it takes a lot to make it work really well from a global perspective. And so the more of that we can control on our end, then we can have predictability into what, do we need to, for example, boost up production for an upcoming seasonal sale that we have, right? Or when we notice seasonal trends in furniture patterns, we can adjust accordingly internally. We don't have to, rely on a party who may have, or a partner who may have, varying costs in the parts that they source from Mexico, right? These are all very complex things that I don't really understand, but I'm kind of regurgitating what smarter people tell me here. But I do know that we kind of want to have a healthy mix of a lot of different things.
Well, talking about the supply chain is really interesting because I know, so right now we're having lots of conversations in the media too about this. What about lumber? Does that impact how you look at things too? I mean, the cost of lumber for home building has, it's adding to the cost of homes. Is that something that you're considering in the furniture industry as well?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly notice it, and it's certainly impacting prices from goods that are, think of like a wooden coffee table that's 98% wood, right? Like, except for the fixtures. We're fortunate in that we can I think there's really two ways that we're fortunate. One is we're a platform, right? And so we can shift our sourcing somewhat, and we can also shift what we carry in-house or what we decide to refurbish more quickly towards wooden goods or away from wooden goods, right? And so, we have a lot of metal steel case, not steel case the brand, but metal steel products like coffee tables and bookshelves and whatnot that don't have any wood. And so we can feature those, but we can also reutilize the assets that we already have, right? And so we've already paid for those assets. We've already paid for the wood. We've already sourced the SKU. It's much better for us and for our customers also if we just are able to reutilize those assets again. And so we aren't quite as, I don't think we allow that to quite impact our sourcing quite as much as maybe traditional e-commerce brands would.
So what happens to the furniture? Does it sort of cycle out eventually? And what happens there? How many times can it kind of go through a cycle of going back to the factory and being refurbished?
Yeah, it's very SKU by SKU. So, hard dining tables, for instance, especially if they aren't wood, those, we're still sort of seeing what the end of that lifetime looks like, right? For us and sort of what the impacts on our gross margin is from reutilizing those assets. I think, we're hopeful that, an average of kind of somewhere between 3 and 6 turns. Again, it very, very much depends on the type of asset. But often, customers fall in love with pieces and they end up buying them out. And so, that can shorten the lifetime. Or they just, pay for them until they own them because they love that sectional. And we're seeing that quite a bit too. And so what the final number ends up being, we actually don't know because we're, relatively young company and we are sort of still figuring out what the full lifetime of those assets are because we do source them based, one of the key metrics that we look at when we're sourcing furniture is what the durability and the quality are going to be. And so kind of by design, we haven't found that out yet.
Interesting. What do you think about the future of really customized furniture? Because I see that's something that's starting to happen, and there's talk about 3D printing and things like that. Do you feel like in the future people are going to want furniture to be more and more customized to their specific expectations?
Absolutely. Yeah, we already see requests for that. I think the really, when we're looking at kind of modular furniture, right? And this is, goes back to your last question of kind of controlling the supply chain and getting into manufacturing. There are manufacturing partners who do this really well. There are ways that we think we can do it really well also. It's, how do you kind of utilize the same parts across a number of different SKUs, make them feel consistent from a feel standpoint, but also different enough so that, this one may have some gold accents, but those can be swapped out for some chrome accents. And people can really customize to their tastes. The last thing we want is that someone loves a couch, but they end up not getting it because it has the wrong color legs, right? Like that's a problem that's easy to solve, and we should be solving that. Where it gets really interesting, I think, to sort of go a little outside of your question, but there are a lot of companies like Bumblebee Spaces is one, for instance. I was meeting with them at a conference back when conferences were a thing. And they're very much a modular space company, customizable spaces so that floor plans can be shifted, especially when you think about like short-term rentals and hospitality. If you're kind of yielding your rates or revenue managing your space according to demand, and you need 3 single rooms to turn into a triple room, they have these walls that move that you can do that. But then also that sort of begs the question, how does the furniture adapt to that as well? And can that be done through some sort of ongoing service with modular furniture so that the couch can become larger because another piece is put in it, and then another bed frame can be added? And that's a space that is incredibly exciting. And we think that, through partnerships, we're really, really well positioned to serve it also.
Interesting. Are you getting into the co-living spaces at all?
Yeah, we work with a few co-living operators, and they, we work with them in a couple different ways. One is to kind of offer, very much in the vein of the multifamily partnerships, offer their residents a turnkey furniture service, because I don't know this for a fact, but I imagine that co-living, it definitely appeals to people who know that they're going, younger folks and folks who know that they're going to be moving in the next probably like 24 months or so. And so as such, furniture is not really a huge investment they want to make on a personal standpoint. But then also for the partner, we can source and provide their furniture, and as well as kind of that ongoing service element to help them reduce their ongoing maintenance costs. It doesn't make sense for them to have to rent storage space nearby for extra furniture SKUs, for instance, just in case a table leg breaks, right? Like that's kind of crazy. So we work with them in that vein also to be able to service the furniture in their apartments and, quickly swap that out for something else. And so that's another interesting way that we're working with co-living. But yeah, exactly. There's a lot of opportunities there.
What about co-working and commercial real estate? Is that an area you're also looking to expand into?
Yeah, we've done a few projects in the past. I think there are different sets of considerations for, like, for instance, commercial grade furniture that goes in, a hotel lobby and has to be flame retardant versus high grade residential, CB2 and Crate and Barrel, which is what we feature. Um, but the trends in furniture types within offices have been, it used to be 80% kind of hard case goods and 20% soft goods, and that is flipped now. It's 80%, sofas and communal seating and coffee tables and things like that. And what the future of the office looks like, I think, is a big question mark for a lot of folks. I don't know if it's going to be communal. I don't know if it's going to be, very sectioned off. I think creative spaces are going to play a huge part in the future office. And so that does tend to lend itself to, okay, how do we provide furniture in a space that's really conducive to, small group and team gatherings and things like that. So it's something that we've done a little bit of in the past, but we do think that given the fact that we aren't the type of business that's going to do 150 desks, that we actually are well positioned to work with folks in the sort of creative space, communal space setting that may be the future of the office.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting thing that's going to happen with furniture too, is the hard versus soft. Certainly all of us who worked from home from much softer, couches and chairs, I think people are going to go back to the office and be like, all of this is way too rigid.
Right. Yeah. Not great for our posture,
No.
but maybe great for the aesthetics of the home, or of the office, I should say.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up, we've talked a little bit about trends in furnishings, but let's talk a little bit more about that. Is there anything that individual real estate investors should kind of keep their eye on in terms of trends that you're seeing?
Technology and circular business models are really, they're creating new ways for real estate and furniture to work together. Those two things used to be inextricable from one another, right? Every time you got furniture, every time you got real estate, or you managed real estate, or you made an investment in real estate, furniture was just part of your responsibilities with that, right? Because every space has some type of furniture in it generally. But what we're really hoping to be able to do, and what we've done with our partners so far, is allow real estate operators and asset managers to focus on what they do best, right? Focus on all of the things that they already have to do related to the real estate, and be able to shed those responsibilities and the cost overhead and the ongoing costs that furniture requires. And, I always tell people, furniture is the worst business to be in unless you're in the furniture business, right? It's very appealing to say, look at the high margins of furniture. If we just take on that, we can sort of vacuum that into our profits as well. But what's often not accounted for is ongoing costs associated with transporting, repairing, refurbishing, disposing of, getting excess storage to, or getting storage to, store excess SKUs nearby, and all the outsourced logistics and transport associated with that. And then, not to mention, you're pretty much refreshing it every 5 years anyway, right? So just build that into the costs, and you're looking at significant overhead. And what companies like Fernish are able to do are kind of take all that and gain economies of scale, because we have this consumer arm where we already have the transportation, right? We already have the warehouses and refurbishing. And if you look at the vacation rental space, for instance, a ton of those companies just evaporated. Because, and that was in large part due to the fact they had millions of dollars of furniture on their balance sheets, and they were sort of, left holding the bag. And I think that the economies of scale that we're able to provide, and I'd imagine this is happening, in other sectors also, are really freeing up real estate operators to say, okay, let's do what we do best: investing, operating, and marketing, and then kind of leave furniture as something where we can save them a lot of money and a lot of sort of human capital overhead also, to be able to focus on what they do best. And that's one of the most exciting parts of the way that we work with real estate operators today.
Interesting. So, in terms of furniture, there hasn't been, it's an area that there isn't a lot of innovation in necessarily. Wondering a little bit about smart furniture. We've got smart beds now. We've got, Sleep Number and things like that. There's obviously a technology thing happening around sleep and around that area of the house. Do you feel like there's potential for furniture to be a little bit smarter? I mean, we've got smart homes now that are wired, but then the furniture that's in there, not smart yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that we're working on in-house, but I think there's certainly opportunity. I mean, the name of the game is that, is do consumers want it, right? And does it make their lives easier? And you could imagine it's not too far of a, it's not too much of a deviation to go from like a Sleep Number, for instance. I'm just saying the brands that I see commercials for, but a Sleep Number bed to something that's really smart in terms of an office chair, right? People are spending a lot of time in their office chairs. Posture is a problem. Ergonomics is a problem. That's probably an area where companies might want to invest to, reduce medical claims in the future, right? Things like that. And so I'm sure that can be carried through to, a bunch of different sectors, not to mention, I mean, we have standing rise desks, for instance, but, why shouldn't that learn your behaviors and give you kind of an easier home experience? I think that's a really smart idea, and it's probably something that a lot of companies will be implementing.
Yeah, I think there's so much potential. So one more question I had about the furnishings that you have and how you track things. Is there are you using like an RFID tag, or how are you tracking individual pieces as they go through cycles?
Yeah, so this is what I thought we were going to ask when you asked smart furniture. But it is smart on the back end somewhat. I mean, we have, just out of necessity, we have had to develop our own in-house asset management software. And so, yeah, we utilize RFID tags. We have devices, kind of, point of exit and point of entry in terms of the truck or the home. And so we can understand, a lot about an asset's history. We know where the coffee table's been, right? And so we can learn, and we know, what repairs and refurbishments were made to it, so that we can say, okay, this is what's happening to these SKUs over their lifetime, and look at broad trends and say, the table legs are always breaking on these after the third time, right? Like, let's make sure that the table legs are fastened, or they're replaced in advance of that, so that customers basically get a new life, so that furniture gets a new life with the third customer. All sorts of things that, again, this is a bit outside of my day-to-day, but I know that there's really exciting things so that we can learn how we can most efficiently manage our supply chain. And again, at the end of the day, the goal is to reduce the waste of furniture, right? And be smarter about how we source and reutilize and transport assets, so that they can, not end up in landfills at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's just so smart. There's so much we're not tracking, and having access to that kind of data will, just lead to all sorts of interesting decisions.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Sam. You can learn more at Fernish, that's FERNISH.com. You can always email us at media@millionacres to share your thoughts. Stay well and stay invested.
Thank you for tuning in to the Millionacres Podcast. I hope you liked today's show. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing through your favorite podcast provider. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop us a line at help@millionacres.com. Stay well and stay invested. People on this program may have an interest in the deals, offerings, or services they discussed at Millionacres, or the Motley Fool may have a formal recommendation for or against. Always consult a certified tax professional before acting on tax advice, and do not buy or sell assets based solely on what you hear.